somehow snatch stalemate from the jaws of defeat. That's the confidence you need. And we've said from the beginning, for those of you who were with us, we previewed the bleep out of this thing. And one theme remains consistent throughout Wesley So's career. When he's confident, he does things like win the Fischer Random World Championship, and he does things like win the Chess.com Global Championship. When he's not confident, Danya, he does things like lose 11 games in a row to Magnus on Chess.com. And so that's a huge moment that he didn't lose those first 2 games to start today's match.
And Danny, you took the words right out of my mouth. We really complete each other's
sandwiches or sentence. I mean, I'm into whatever you want to complete. I'm here all night to complete it.
I was into sandwiches.
Go ahead.
I would love a sandwich right now. But Wesley, he didn't win that game. And, he did get that lost position out of an endgame where he seemed to be playing for 2 results. Although you're never playing for 2 results against Magnus. You can lose any endgame to him. But this does grant you a lot of confidence. And Wesley might be telling himself, wait a second, I actually can save some of these endgames. I can compete with Magnus in the endgame. And that was a big practical boost as we see an old school line of the Najdorf. This used to be popular in the 80s and 90s. This weird opposite colored bishop middle game with 3 pawns on the D file.
Yep. Yeah, this is funny stuff because opposite code bishop endgames, super drawish. Opposite code bishop middle games, if white gets going on the light squares, this becomes a very, very dangerous position for black to hold. And they have a lot of time on the clock here, which tells me both of these players at least know something about this one, even if they haven't looked at this theory in a while.
Yeah, this bishop g5, bishop takes f6 line, I think Vladimir Kramnik pioneered some of the ideas in the early 90s, and it's always kind of stuck around as a good backup system to the more topical responses to the Najdorf, like bishop g5, and now, of course, the English attack and 6h3. I think the position is dynamically equal. Black has good chances to generate pressure on the queen side. The queen from d8, it can come out to a5. The rook from a8 can come out to e8, grabbing control of the e file. And I'm just not really seeing white's attack yet. Although if Magnus plays h4 and then sneaks that g pawn up the board, Danny, you can't fall asleep either if you're Wesley on the king side.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because objectively, white's pawn storm has more potential than black's, but there you go. Also, white's pawns are easier to target than black's, so queen a5 is super important for that, keeping white off balance and saying, hey, look, okay, if you go all in for the attack, I note that it's not a thing you really do right now, but if one example is if you take with the queen, I think that white can just trade and win material back, but okay, rook e8 instead, which is the move you were calling for.
Top engine move, rook a e8, and now h4 is very likely, and he does it. And I think we will see that in game. Queen takes d5. I wouldn't be able to resist that juicy morsel. I think Magnus will trade and then push g5 and essentially play for positional compensation in the endgame in the form of a space advantage, and maybe he'll win one of the D pawns back, likely the d4 pawn. Draw likeliest result, but given what we've seen in the endgames thus far, I'm very much cautious about making a guess and trying to forecast what this endgame is going to look like 10 moves from now.
No, but you're right. Wesley takes the pawn when it was more appropriate. When I was highlighting that you wouldn't take it earlier, this rook was not on e8, and bishop e4 would have been a move. And so the whole point is now Wesley has taken the pawn at the right time. And,
a3. Such a Magnus move.
You know what he's thinking about? I swear Magnus is already trying to set a long-term trap where this rook runs out of squares.
You're totally right.
It's not
b4 and f4.
It's not crazy to think about that. Magnus is devious right now. He wants to set a long-term opportunity for his opponent to blunder. You and I have said that a lot. He does that better than anyone in history, right? Create chances for his opponent to go wrong. And let's just see what happens.
And a3 is one of those moves that you can easily look past. But if he wins the game, it's going to be one of the reasons that he did. Because he forces Wesley to make a difficult decision. Guess what? If the pawn was on b4 right now, he would already be threatening to trap the rook with bishop c4. So these things that we're mentioning, they're not some far-fetched, distant possibility. They're the reality that Wesley is facing. And I would go rook c5 and evacuate the rook. He's missed it. b4. I guess Wesley wants b5, but can white go bishop f1 and bishop g2 there? Oh my gosh.
No, but the move b4. It's exactly what we said he was going for. b4 literally traps the rook right now. And whether it's bishop c4 next or a slow jam, right? Throw on the Lionel Richie and let's enjoy ourselves with some candles. This is a slow jam. It doesn't matter. Magnus is trapping the rook, and we knew it was going to happen when he played a3.
There's also rook to e1 here to prepare bishop e4, but Wesley is relying on the move rook e3 in response, but white could still play bishop e4. And Danny, this is such an instructive point for newer players, right? The X-ray defense, rook h e1, rook e3, and bishop e4. You called it the moment Magnus played a3, and now Wesley is staring down the barrel of a position where he's going to be down in exchange.
I wish I could play half as good as Magnus, as well as I predict Magnus's ideas, because as soon as he played a3, I asked myself, what would Magnus do? And you started to see the purpose of it. Wesley, unfortunately, lost his focus. By the way, your move, rook e1, is more accurate than that bishop f1. Computer agreed. And here comes bishop e4. G5,
first
accuracy.
G5.
Oh my gosh. He stops h4 first, kicks the bishop, bishop e4 is next, and Magnus Carlsen is trapping the rook in the middle of the board.
Unbelievable. How another game that just makes your jaw drop open. And g5, another one of those imperceptible moments where Magnus prevented bishop takes h4. Danny, how many players, if we could briefly pull up an analysis board, instead of g5, how many players would go bishop e4 and blunder bishop takes h4, rook takes c3, d takes c3, and guess what? Black pre-moves e2, and if you take on d5 with the rook, you actually lose the game.
God.
So that's why he played g5.
What a crazy line you just saw there. And so not only was g5 necessary or most accurate to save the h-pawn, but I didn't realize how deep the idea was. I'm showing Danya Naroditsky an instant replay because sometimes you got to appreciate it. That's an amazing line, Danya. And again, a lot of players, guilty right here, yours truly, probably would have just totally missed that idea.
And, you know,
that is crazy.
He's an artist, right? And this is what artists do.